Hello everyone. Welcome to my FPL Fast Track channel. My name is Jamal, and today I am going to go through GameWeek 8 fixtures, and we will analyze the data for GameWeek 7. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have uploaded all the data for GameWeek 7. You can see it here, and this table here shows the total points for a game week and by team. So I am only showing the last 6 game weeks, the most recent game weeks. So it's from 2 to game week 7. Having a quick look at it, the first thing we see, all the greens. If I select game week 7 only, these are the top performing players for game week 7. We can see Guavidol did quite well. He got 12 points. He had an assist. He got 3 points, 3 bonus points, a clean sheet as well. He had a good day today. Semenyo, I captained him. He was brilliant yesterday. Haaland scored a goal today. Sesko did quite well as well. So this is all the best players. Van Hecker, he scored a goal today. So he got 11 points. And you can see there are quite a few teams this game week with green boxes. Arsenal played quite well. They have a total of 76 points overall. Rice scored a goal. Declan Rice scored. Jarian Timber assisted, and Declan Rice scored a goal. So they got 11 points each. Bournemouth got 63 points total. Semenyo nearly took 1/3 of all the points from Bournemouth. He did excellent, 2 goals and an assist. Man United did the best this game week. They have a total of 78 points. Mason Mount scored a goal, so he's got 10 points. Sesko scored a goal again, so that's nice to see. And Dalot did good. The goalkeeper did good. 9 points by both of them. Newcastle did quite well. They got 74 points in total. We can see Burns got 11. That's really good. Bruno did well. He scored a goal and assisted. And Waltermate, as predicted, he got onto the score sheet as well. Okay, so overall, so far I got about 90 something points for this game week. And if you've followed my recommendations, then you would have got the same as well. But looking at the fixtures for game week number 8, the first match we're going to be looking at is Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. So the first thing that we notice is Nottingham Forest and Chelsea, they both have a 33% win rate. So Nottingham Forest have 33% win rate playing at home. Chelsea have a 33% win rate playing away. So they are even in that sense. in terms of the total points, Nottingham Forest haven't been playing great. Chelsea has been okay. There's a 10 place difference in terms of the league ranking, but this is the interesting fact here. So, goals scored in the past 3 game weeks, Chelsea scored 4. Nottingham Forest are struggling to score goals, so they've scored only 1. But at the same time, Chelsea's conceded more goals than Nottingham Forest. That's quite interesting. If we look at Nottingham Forest, they're right at the bottom in 17th place. And if we look at all their home games, so this is all the home games they've played. They've only won their first game against Brentford, and that was 3-1. They lost against West Ham and they lost against Sunderland, and now they play Chelsea at home. And Chelsea are stronger than all of these 3 teams, right? So that just goes to kind of show me that Chelsea are likely to win. But if we look at Chelsea's away game record, these are all the away games Chelsea played. They won the first game week 5-1 against West Ham. They drew against Brentford and they lost to Man United away. So it's not great, but they've gathered 4 points in total playing away, whilst Nottingham Forest got 3 points playing away. So just by looking at the first look, there's not necessarily anything that distinguishes both the teams massively statistically in terms of looking at data. Only 1 point difference if you look at the number of points Chelsea made by playing away. They've got 4 points, whilst Nottingham Forest got 3 points playing home. So only 1 point difference. However, let's just deselect the home and away, and let's see who is conceding the most. And this is interesting here. So out of the 7 games played, Nottingham Forest have conceded 12 goals in total. That's, you can see there's only 3 other teams who conceded more than them. At the same time, they've only scored 5 goals in 5 goals only. And these 5 goals mainly came, 3 goals came from the first game. So they are struggling to score a goal. You can see there's 4 games that they have not been able to score a goal at all. And there were 2 games they've only scored 1 goal, right? At the same time, if we look at Chelsea, in terms of conceding, they're like the mid-table, right? So they've conceded 9 goals, but at the same time, they've scored 13 goals. So if we sort it by top to bottom, we can see Chelsea are one of the top scoring teams out of the entire Premier League. So that is something that you need to think about. 13 goals against 13. So Chelsea team that has scored 13 goals, Nottingham Forest that has conceded 12 goals. We can clearly see Chelsea are going to score a goal. That is close enough a fact. But at the same time, Nottingham Forest are struggling, whereas Chelsea have been conceding as well. So there is a chance Nottingham Forest may score a goal. So, considering this, considering this, if I look at particular players, Chelsea's top performing players are Casado and Enzo. And we've got a few good players in defence as well. Chalobah didn't play last game. Pedro, he had a good start to the season, but he's been blanking last 3 games. Maybe it's time to remove him from your team, because he is selected by 62% of the FPL community. And there has been some good strikers coming out. So that's something to consider. But if we look at Casado, you can see that he's usually very good with defensive contribution. So he's been close to getting defensive contribution point this last game in GameWeek 7 and 6, because the threshold for a midfielder to get defensive contribution points is 12 defensive contributions. So my summary for Nottingham Forest and Chelsea is Chelsea's going to score. Very highly likely they're going to score. So pick your best players. Enzo, Casado. They are possibly likely to concede, because they have been conceding a lot. But Nottingham Forest are struggling to score goals. So invest in Chelsea attack, definitely. The next team that we are going to talk about is Brighton versus Newcastle. Now, the first thing we see is Brighton have got a home win record of 33%. Newcastle, surprisingly, they have a 0% away win record. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't drawn. It just means they haven't won a game yet. So if we quickly look at both the teams have 9 points each. The league ranking is only one ranking difference. In terms of number of goals scored, Brighton have scored 6 goals, whilst Newcastle have only scored 3 goals in the past 3 games. In terms of conceding, Brighton have conceded 2 more goals in comparison to Newcastle. So very similar statistic, nothing out of the ordinary, but it is showing Brighton is more likely to score goals. So if we look at their overall records, Brighton playing home, they have drawn against Tottenham most recently, they won against Man City, and they drew against Fulham. So they have not actually lost a game playing home, which is a very interesting fact. They've generated 5 points in total, and just playing home, they've scored 5 goals and conceded 4 goals. Right? On the other hand, if we look at Newcastle's record is actually interesting. I wouldn't say it's all bad. You can see every single time they've played away, it's been a 0-0 draw. So they've played 3 games so far with Aston Villa, Leeds and Bournemouth. And all these 3 teams, they ended up having a 3-3 draw. Now, the good thing is Newcastle's defence have been doing quite well, and I've been getting a lot of points from them. So that is something to think about. We've got a week and a half to decide who our final team, who our player picks are. So I'll have a more deep think about how and who to pick. But overall, right now, I would have Burn as my defender, Pope as my goalkeeper, but it looks like it could be a 0-0 draw as well, purely because Brighton are a similar team to all these 3 teams, right? So we can see Brighton's there, Aston Villa's there, Leeds are here, and who else did they play? Bournemouth. Now Bournemouth are doing quite well actually, so Bournemouth are over there. So my prediction for this game is actually it's going to be 0-0. 0-0 again. So in terms of the players, who do I recommend you to get? So if we look at both Newcastle and Brighton, the best players in both teams are, you can see the best goalkeeper and defenders, mostly Newcastle players. In terms of midfielders, we've got Minte, who's been quite well. He blanked this week, but so he's not exactly amazing. And this person here, Walter Maid, he's been doing quite well. He came in game week 4, and he's already catching up and getting the most really good points, average points, 6 points per game. And you can see his transfer in already 150,000, and his price has gone up as well slightly. So some things to think about. So for this game, it is likely Brighton have been conceding more, so I think Newcastle might edge it. Newcastle might have a clean sheet, and it's likely Newcastle might have might score a goal. So 1-0 to Newcastle, I would say. Moving on to the next game, Burnley versus Leeds. Okay, so Burnley has a 33%. Burnley has a 33% home win ratio. Leeds have a 33% away win record. In terms of points, we can see Leeds have 4 points more. League rankings very similar. In terms of goals, Leeds have scored 6 goals in the last 3 games. In comparison, Burnley has scored 3. At the same time, instead conceding wise, Burnley have conceded 8 goals in the past 3 games. Leeds have conceded 5. So they are both conceding goals. Burnley are struggling to score goals as well. If we look at how they have been performing individually, so Burnley is right here at the bottom, second to bottom. And if we just look at their home games, they haven't done too bad. They won the first game against Sunderland 2-0. They lost against Liverpool, and they drew 1-1 against Nottingham Forest. And they got 4 points in total. At the same time, if we look at Leeds away record, they've actually got a worse record than Burnley. They have only got 3 points. They lost 5-0 to Arsenal. They lost 1-0 to Fulham, but they did win against Wolves away. So that's the only win they came. So it's a very interesting game because there's no clear distinction as to who is going to do well. If we just look at, so therefore, what I would do for a game like this, I would just look at the best performing players between the two. So we can see, so I've just selected Burnley and Leeds. We can see that the best performing player for both, when we compare both the team players, is Anthony. He blanked this week, because I have him selected. He only got 1 point, which is a shame. He played 58 minutes as well, which is even bigger shame. But overall, he's got the most points out of all the players. And then after him, it's Cullen. He played 90 minutes, but he did get 6 points. He got 2 defensive points, 2 bonus points, and they've conceded. So he managed to get 6 points, even though they conceded 2 goals. And we can see he had 20 defensive contribution tackles. In terms of... So that's about it. And Longstaff is doing quite well. He had a really good game week 6, but generally he is blanking, so I wouldn't really say he is the one to pick. So overall, this game I think is going to be a low scoring game. I don't see any teams to me it feels like it's going to be a low scoring game. There's no player that is above and beyond. Anthony, don't know why he didn't get the full 90 minutes, which is a shame. So we don't know how many minutes he's going to get in this meeting. So it's going to be... I think it's likely to be a draw. Next game, Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth. Okay. Both teams are performing very well. They've got very similar points. Crystal Palace got 12 points. Bournemouth got 14 points. There's only a 2 ranking difference between the teams. In terms of home and away win record, it's exactly the same. Crystal Palace have won 1 game. Bournemouth has won 1 game away. They've scored 5 goals each over the past 3 games. Crystal Palace have conceded 1 more goal in comparison to Bournemouth for the past 3 games. So again, very, very similar stats. If we look at how they perform at home and away, let's look at Crystal Palace home. There they are. So you can see they've only got 5 points playing home. They drew against Nottingham Forest, they drew against Sunderland, and they won against Liverpool. So this is a significant win. They lost today, so that was the first loss. So if we just look at their home record, they haven't lost at home yet, which is an interesting fact. Whereas Bournemouth, if we look at Bournemouth's away record, they've generated 4 points, which is not bad. So they lost against Liverpool, they won against Tottenham, and they drew against Leeds. So apart from Tottenham, so their record is not too bad. Their record is average, I would say, just slightly above average. Semenyo's in terrific form. So Crystal Palace home, Crystal Palace home 5 points. It's not bad at all. But let's have a look at conceding wise. So Crystal Palace have only conceded 2 goals at home. Overall, they have conceded 5 goals. So Crystal Palace have one of the best defense in the entire league. They're the second strongest team after Arsenal. They're equally as strong as Spurs and Newcastle. In terms of scoring, Crystal Palace come midway, so they're quite average. On the other hand, if we look at Bournemouth, they are better at scoring goals, but they're slightly weaker at the back in defense. So, to summarize, again, this game is this is like the third fixture with very similar level teams. Crystal Palace and Bournemouth are a very similar level team, so this is going to be a tough game, I would say. Potentially a draw. If we look at the players from both teams, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, these two teams have been giving, the output have been very good in terms of points. Semenyo has 51 points in total. No, actually more, but he's got 51 points based on the past 6 games. Senesi has 44. If we look at attacking returns for Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, we can see Semenyo is the person with the most attacking returns. So he is someone you definitely need in your team. He is one of the most he's the most selected midfielder. 1 out of 320 midfielders. He is the most selected midfielder. So nearly 60% of the people have him in their team. So the question is, should you captain him? I'm not sure. This is something I will need to think about more. Okay. The next team that I want to go through is Man City versus Everton. Man City have won 67% of their matches playing at home. Everton have won 33% of the matches playing away. They actually have very similar points, which is a surprise. I didn't know. And they are not far from each other in terms of the Premier League ranking. In terms of the number of goals, Man City have scored 7 in the past 3 games. Everton have scored only 4. They've conceded more goals as well, 2 more than Man City. So Man City have been in a very, very good form. If we look at overall, just on terms of conceding or points, Man City are actually mid-table. So out of the 3 home games they've played, they lost against Tottenham, They won against Man United and they won against Burnley. So they won 2 out of the 3 games. Whereas Everton away, they lost against Leeds, they won against Wolves, and they lost against Liverpool. So their record playing away is worse. And because of that, Man City are likely to win. If we look at just the overall goals scored, Man City have scored 15 goals. They have scored more than anyone else in the entire league. Everton, on the other hand, have scored only 9 goals. On the other hand, in terms of conceding, Everton and Man City actually have conceded similar amount of goals, 7 versus 6. So overall, we can expect Man City to continue scoring goals, especially Haaland. Everton are likely to concede. That is something that everyone would know. But if we look at the details, Man City and Everton overall, we can see in terms of players, there are, other than Haaland, you can see there's not many Man City's players here. And that just shows that it's not that they're not good at it, it's because of the rotation. Doku didn't even play. Well, he was on for 14 minutes. He was on for 14 minutes today. So he only got 1 point, and he was transferred in quite a lot. Josko Guardvidal, he did quite well today. 12 points, he got 1 assist and a clean sheet and 3 bonus points, which is good. So he is doing well. Ruben, 9, 6, 12, 6. Now, one of the patterns I'm looking out for is the consistency of points, because we can see Man City actually had, okay, he didn't play first 2 games. Man City seems like they had a bad start to the campaign. They've had a few games where they conceded, so they haven't had many clean sheets. This was the second clean sheet they had. So at the same time, Grealish, he has been doing quite well. Well, he was close to blanking this week as well. He scored a 95th minute goal. So he is still a bit risky. So overall, my summary for the game is Man City are likely to score goals. I wouldn't put any Everton defenders. And we need to be careful about Pep's rotation, so we'll have to come back to that later. Next game I want to analyze is Sunderland versus Wolves. This is very interesting. Sunderland have a 67% win record playing at home. Wolves haven't won a game away yet. In terms of goals, you can clearly see both teams are struggling to score goals. Sunderland scored only 2 goals in the past 3 games. Wolves have scored 3 goals in the past 3 games. But they've been conceding a lot more as well, 5 versus 3. If we quickly have a look at all of the home points, Sunderland, they've generated 7 points. So they won 3-0 against West Ham. They won 2-1 against Brentford. And they drew against Aston Villa. So they haven't lost a match at home yet. So that is a very interesting fact to note. Whereas if we look at Wolves' away record, they've only generated 1 point, and that was the draw against Tottenham. They lost 1-0 against Newcastle and 1-0 against Bournemouth. So although they have been losing matches, they haven't been losing matches by a lot of goals. Whereas they haven't been conceding much. So that's something interesting to note as well. So Sunderland haven't lost a game at home. Wolves have not been conceding much away. So it could be a draw or it could be Sunderland winning by a goal. We can even see Sunderland haven't been scoring much. Okay, Sunderland actually have been scoring quite a few goals home. So if it could be a similar game as to Sunderland versus West Ham. Alright. So let's have a look at Sunderland and Wolves. Wolves and Sunderland. Okay, we can see I think Sunderland are likely to have a clean sheet. Let's have a look how have they been conceding at home, Sunderland. So they've conceded only 2 goals, one against Villa and one against Brentford. And considering Wolves have been struggling to score a goal or win matches, I would say it's likely that Sunderland are going to have a clean sheet. So if you have Algerie or Mukili or even Rolfs as your goalkeeper, it is worth putting them back in your team for GameWeek 8. That's something that we can confidently say. Put your Sunderland defense back. And at the same time, I don't see Sunderland scoring a lot of goals. But if they do score goals, it will be coming from Isidore likely. I know a few people have Isidore in their teams. Then if you do have Isidore in your team, make sure he is selected. Xhaka has been an all-rounder. So he's had 3 assists so far. So yeah. Yep. So to summarize, Sunderland are likely to have a clean sheet. Wolves are likely to lose. Sunderland, make sure you get your Sunderland defenders in. Next game I want to analyze